Hello, everybody, and welcome to the CX Live Dialogues. I'm delighted to have with us today Ahmet Subaşı, Managing Director, MEAPAC for SESTEK. Ahmet is a seasoned sales and business development leader specializing in Agentic AI, analytics, and customer experience across APAC MEA region. With 12 years in the AI space and prior leadership in CX operations and workforce optimization at one of Turkey's largest BPOs, he brings deep hands-on expertise to the CX AI space. Ahmet holds a PhD in cognitive science and a USPTO-granted AI patent. Welcome, Ahmet. It's a pleasure to have you with us today.
The pleasure is mine, Aisha. Thank you for having me.
Well, clearly you have a lot of expertise in the CX AI space. And since 2025, we have seen this really rapidly getting entrenched into businesses. With the continuous integration of AI in customer service, what strategies do you recommend for organizations to strike the right balance between automation and maintaining a personalized human touch in their interactions with customers?
Yeah, great question, Aisha. Thank you very much. Actually, it's a very important subject if you ask me from different angles, actually. First of all, I mean, the main classification is we have the automation and we have the human workforce, right? And the human touch element is typically thought of as being part of the latter category. But actually, even on the design level of the automation, there should be a proper human touch, because in the end, unlike the good old automation that we are used to in the contact centers, like the DTMF itself, for example. So surprisingly, the automation hasn't started with virtual agents or Gen AI. It started with the DTMF in the contact center environment, because through DTMF, you could do some self-services, so on and so forth. Actually, the whole logic of human touch should be embedded into the automation itself. So nowadays, we are not designing like the DTMFs, which are quite straightforward. Even in that case, imagine, Aisha, we were discussing personalized IVRs. How do we design the IVR so that people do not suffer? So there was always a human touch, actually, even on the DTMF level. But nowadays, it seems that people kind of forget that when we are designing Agentic AI, we are utilizing language, which is a quite personal thing for us human beings, right? So designing language means we need to have a good understanding of how we speak with the customers, how we address their problems, how we react to their emotions, what type of support we give them, what type of situations require actual human touch. When I say human, a human with a consciousness, a human with emotions, yes, we can mimic emotions on the Agentic AI level, but certain things must be related from a more conscious angle, right? So again, when we discuss the human touch aspect of the automation, what does the voice sound like? So, for example, when we select a voice that will represent our company, we should make the right selection. We should make a selection that reflects our corporate identity. So honestly, one of the big mistakes of today is people are taking Agentic AI or AI automation as a purely engineering problem. But if you ask me as an industry expert, I started feeling that it's more an artistic job than an engineering job, because you're designing something that speaks. And imagine speech is one of the greatest art forms of humankind, right? We do poetry with it. We do we try to be eloquent. We try to be clear in our speech. We have communication strategies. So now we need to think really, when we are communicating with our customers, we really need to focus on these aspects of the problem. So rather than leaving this task of automation purely to engineers, we should make it a part of the CX design, the kind of teams and anyone who is really interested in how to relate with the customers, how to engage with the customers. So that's the first thing we need to focus on. What type of message we're giving, how do we engage with the customers, what is the tone of the voice? If you are utilizing an avatar, for example, in one of my recent projects, honestly, there was an avatar, which is a localized avatar. And localization is obviously part of the engagement, right? So this was like an Emirati persona. And then, I mean, I found myself although I was not like, I was basically the managing director I was responsible for the sales of that deal, but I was personally involved because it was a very cutting edge project. So I wanted to be really very closely involved, using more like my industry expertise hats. So what I realized was we spent almost 2 weeks just to discuss how the headpiece should look like, the headpiece. So it might come as a surprise to some people because the headpiece might not be as relevant in every culture as it is in Emirates, but it's very important how you look, how you fold your headpiece, which is called gutra actually. So I think the problem of agentic AI is like we need to have a solid understanding of what we mean human touch on the design level, on the automation level, as well as how we relate this automated experience with the actual human touch, with the actual human engagement, and how do we build the bridge between these two? Because, for example, imagine, so I'll create a bit of twist here. Imagine you have an amazing agentic AI, which is built and designed with human touch approach, and it's kind of giving great results. Now you escalate it to a human agent, and suddenly that human agent, if not augmented with the right AI tools, there will be a gap of information, gap of knowledge. That this agentic AI can access all types of information in a streamlined and automated way. And suddenly, if the quality of that conversation drops from automation to human beings, this will also not be chic, right? So we need to empower the human agents so that when there's a handover, there's a smooth transition, and the power of human qualities like empathy, like consciousness, like going through complicated situations with emotional significance should not be leaving any gaps on the more technical aspects of the problem, like having access to all types of information, which kind of makes AI a bit more powerful in that case. So I think all of this understanding of the problem will be relevant to the human touch aspect of automation. And obviously, again, there's one more aspect that I think is kind of sidelined, but I believe it's of central importance, and it is how do we maintain the quality of the agentic interaction. So honestly, sometimes I'm quite surprised to see that when I ask this very simple question, how do we make sure that our agentic AI is giving the right information to our customers? Maybe it's going to come as a surprise, but very few people seems to have a good idea, because honestly, the concept of agentic AI is not about whether it can respond to something or not. The problem is it can respond to everything in all sorts of ways, right? So we should be very careful when our agentic AI gives a very confident response with a very human-like tone, and it could still be wrong, right? And maybe it's too long. Maybe my customers are shouting, thank you, but it's too long. I'm waiting for you for 1 minute. You're giving amazing information, but I just need one sentence. So what we should be careful about when we talk about human touch is like we need to have a very solid way of analyzing the quality of the agentic conversation from a CX perspective. And one of the tools for that is obviously analytics. But when we say analytics, people typically think about analyzing human agents. But I'm going to change the perspective a little bit. I think we need now analytics to make sure that our agentic workforce is serving the customers in the right way. So it was kind of a long answer, but I tried to give you the kind of a holistic picture of what I believe would make a difference in terms of human touch.
Certainly. No, Ahmet, I think that's a very pragmatic view towards shaping personalized journeys for our customers. And again, this brings me to the next question, which is, how is AI shaping CX to predict and proactively fulfill customer needs before they even arise?
Yeah, it's another great question. I think it's linked with the first question, because when we talk about human touch, once I gave that example, in my good old neighborhood of my childhood, we had a grocery shop, right? And the grocery shops have always been very central in our neighborhoods in the past. So we were gathering in that grocery and we were drinking some, drinks and then socializing. One of the great things I remember about those people is when I went to my grocery, they knew what I would ask for. When I asked for for example, when I needed cheese, they knew what type of cheese I needed, right? Because they knew me as a person. Honestly, one of the great ways of personalizing the interactions is knowing your customer, right? And knowing your customer, which means also predicting and capable to predict your customer at the same time, just like my grocery was predicting what I would ask for, is creating that personalized touch, right? That relationship. Honestly, it might sound a bit dry, too much robotic to, I mean, in the end, you're like kind of hard coding it, and then it's mimicking a relationship by knowing who you are. But I don't think that way. Whoever is behind that logic, they care for human touch, right? So whoever is designing that AI, it seems that they spend time and energy and they make the due investment so that they know their customers. And of course, it's when I say knowing their customers, it's not about like making inquisition and like privacy issues. I'm not talking about that. But when I'm approaching any of my vendors, I would love to be known at least for the types of data that I am willing to expose to them, right? So I don't want to start. And by the way, one of the great things about Agentic AI is now we have this concept of memory, right? Which is a great part of also our Agentic AI platform. So this memory is not only short-term memory, because in the case of short-term memory, the problem we are addressing is like, what if you change the subject within the conversation and you go back to it? Will it remember? Of course it will remember. So we don't have this diversion problem anymore. Well, why don't we think about scenarios where we say, oh, Ms. Ayusha, you used to order this 3 months ago. I hope you liked it. Something like that. It would be a very good human touch, right? So predicting, understanding, having the depth of the history of the conversation will add a lot of value. It might increase your conversions, it might increase your retention rates, all of those. But on top of this, it will turn it into much more, even in a traditional way, personalized type of relationship, right? And that is, I think, the concept of valuing your customers. And I think we need a couple of things. First, the vision and like keenness to really kind of have this human touch, having a real belief in human touch. That's very important. But on top of this, you need to streamline your data sources. You need to have clean data. You need to collect data at the right sources. Of course, this requires a bit of work and investment. I think we should not be lazy about that, because that's going to be very central in the very near future to differentiate and put something which really makes a difference.
Definitely. And I guess coming back to the data gathering part of things, it's also a problem and challenge, I guess, for companies as channel adoption diversifies. And with the rise of omnichannel experiences transforming customer interactions, how do you believe businesses can effectively integrate various channels to create that seamless, cohesive customer journey? And what role would technology play in achieving this integration?
Yeah. First of all, the state-of-the-art Agentic AI technology makes it easy for companies to utilize the power of omnichannel experience. Why? Because if you might remember, like almost 10 years back, we had solutions only for the IVR, and we had the chatbots. So we kind of struggled a lot as my company to change that perception. And we used to say, ladies and gentlemen, please forget about this chatbot thing, voice bot thing. There is only one engine, one platform that serves all the channels. Because in the end, you are building capabilities which can interact with the customers using natural language. It can generate speech. It can understand speech. So with these components and with the necessary connectivity with the channels, you can duplicate. I mean, we have gone through strange circumstances where, for example, our customers released an RFP for a WhatsApp chatbot, while we are serving them for 5 channels, and now there's WhatsApp. For us, it's just another connector. They're not even aware of that, regardless of how many times we repeated the same point. So this perception really needs to change. So with the state-of-the-art technology, especially with Agentic AI, once you build that logic, once you make the backend integrations, now more and more with the MCPs and all those supportive tools, and the framework itself matured a lot, now you can use all of the channels. So why limit yourself? I mean, for you, just having another connector with this channel is so simple. Most probably you already have all channels available to you. And nowadays, you don't need to think about your bandwidth, because now you have the AI power, right? So you have an extended workforce which can integrate. And one of the things that I love is also one of our recent projects. Our customer implemented an avatar on the mobile application as well as a hologram. And that hologram turned out to be something amazing. And now they put it into their branch and they made a big PR out of that. So that hologram is called a holobox. It's like a full-size image of a man, and then it speaks with you, engages with you, makes jokes with you. That's really amazing. Why not take that persona to one of your events and then make some fun, make some, like, do whatever you want. I mean, you can use it for PR, you can use it for marketing, and plus you can serve people with that one, right? So I think we should no longer limit ourselves in terms of channels. And I'm still surprised to hear that, like, for example, we're having discussions in this age of agentic AI. Some customers still think that IVR is a separate thing. So we want to start with a chatbot, IVR maybe. But actually, today, honestly, with the advancement of the whole speech-to-text and TTS technology, with the latest technology standards, I think all of the channels should be multimodal. I mean, you can have a chatbot on the WhatsApp. It might be your initial channel that you want to focus on, but that chatbot, or let's say agentic AI on WhatsApp, as we properly name it, should be also speech enabled. So you should be able to leave a voice note. It should be able to send you back a voice note. Why? Because you're driving and you don't want to go through this hassle of like trying to write something, right? So I think the market needs to understand that omni-channel with AI is not just a possibility, it's actually quite easy nowadays. So we should not miss that opportunity so that we can give the best to our customers. One last thing before I forget. One of the mistakes of the market, actually, people think that we are limited in terms of the modality or the way we interact. For example, sometimes you get questions like, Ahmet, is it just purely speech-based, or can I also text? Or can I also make selections? Or is this or that? Is it guided or is it speech-based? I'm saying it's all of them. Imagine you have an avatar, and on the right you have a panel. You can text, or you can speak, or you can also make selections. Let us leave it to customers to decide whichever way they enjoy interacting, right? Why do we limit them, right? So just putting another panel over there, nice widgets and some nice like options to select, it's always good. It will never compromise anything. It will only increase the interactivity and the customer satisfaction. So in that sense, omni-channel, multimodal, and multiple ways of interaction should be the basic motto for all future AI transformation projects.
Sounds absolutely wonderful, and just shows the depth to which companies can embrace these new technologies should they wish to. Now, finally, we come back to our human agents who are obviously having the first contact with a lot of the customers. How are these new technologies empowering our human agents to deliver exceptional and empathetic customer service?
Yeah, I mean, a great last question, actually. We can turn this AI thing a blessing for humanity and the human agents, and also their worst nightmare, right? So, I mean, worst nightmare, let's leave it to the pessimists. But I mean, from my angle, there are two ways we can really empower human agents. One, of course, there are so many different scenarios that we can discuss. But let's say you're a telesales agent. And I actually had this conversation face-to-face many times. And I'm asking them, guys, listen to me. Rather than having a batch of calls in front of you, randomly selecting and calling people, which is called the cold call, and it's always a very cold thing, by the way. Imagine there is an agentic AI that initiates outbound conversations with as many people as they can, gives them amazing information, answers their questions, and also we design it with human touch and with a good sales logic so that they answer the main questions, and that they generate leads for you. And as an appreciation of our customers, we're telling them, thank you for your interest. Now we are connecting you with our supervisor. And they're the supervisor now. Each agent becomes a supervisor. And now they're dealing with actual leads rather than random cold calls, which are quite boring at times, right? So they're saved from that agony of talking with someone who's not really interested and you're trying to tell something. Now they're talking with people who are interested, who are given amazing information, and who are selected. Now you can convert them, right? And then you increase the conversion, your position and your worth in the company will be increased, and you will have more confidence. Plus, now imagine, after the initial conversation, if you empower your agents and augment them with all types of information they might need based on the coming inputs from the customer through agent co-pilots, then they're like, quite empowered. They're like flying a jet with a lot of autopilot functionality in front of them. They will feel empowered. But if you leave them, for example, if, as I said, like there might be a lot of conflicts. If you design an amazing agentic AI, but you don't support the agents with a co-pilot, then they might feel disempowered and they might feel stressed out because the expectation is raised and they will have to deal with everything, right? So the whole design, whole operational logic should be based on that harmony between different types of workforces. And once it's done, of course, the agents will be much more empowered and the company will be much more empowered because their access has been grown significantly. And now they have actual leads rather than a bunch of cold calls. And the supervisor agents, because of the value, I think this could be a more serious career for them. Maybe they're no longer just agents. They're really agents that make a big difference by their sales skills and by their empowerment, tool using skills, their skills to interact with AI. So these type of, I think, skill sets will be more and more valuable in the future. Like how much you can interact with AI, how much you can get empowerment from AI will make a big difference. So I think the whole design should be to that end and with this vision in mind. And if you do so, I think everything will be in place. And the empathy will kick in whenever it is needed most. And of course, I gave you a telesales example where you need the final skills with your human touch and enthusiasm to close the sales. But similarly, you can leave the mundane tasks for the inbound scenarios to the agents so that you deal with only complicated, stressful tasks. Yes, it will be more stressful for inbound agents because they will not be dealing with simple things, but they will be much more important in the face of the whole company as a value, right? Because this is only human beings that can go through those type of complicated situations, which requires empathy. So their value is like their human value will kind of stand out. And once they succeeded, their position and kind of importance in the whole organization will be more accordingly. Of course, certain things will change, but this is, I think, a more optimistic way of seeing the situation, besides some of the other socially relevant questions, which can also be addressed in a more humane way. So that would be my response to the final question.
Thank you, Ahmet. It's been a pleasure to have you join us today. Thank you for sharing such lovely nuggets of information with our viewers. And we really look forward to meeting you and the SESTEK team at the Customer Experience Live Show in Dubai in April. Until then, stay safe.
Thank you, Aisha. Looking forward to it. And thank you for your time.